Manipulation equals influence plus deception.
Yeah.
So how do we protect ourselves from manipulation? I guess that would be the first question. And then the second question is like, well, how do we not manipulate other people? Because influence is, well, it matters, right? If you're trying to sell anything or build a business or do anything, it's like, well, you need to have influence and be open to influence to some extent, but there's some boundaries there that need to be maintained.
Yeah. And it's always going to be a gray area.
Yeah.
But am I concealing intent?
Mm-hmm.
That's bad.
Mm-hmm,
so that's step one. Like, A, are you concealing intent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That if we check that off, no, I'm not. Okay, let's go to step two.
Mm-hmm.
Step two is, am I worried about doing this? Like, do I feel extremely good like I'm helping someone or like I'm not helping someone? I feel like I'm helping them. Okay. Then we go to step three. If the other person could see inside of your head and they could see the outcome, would they most likely still take the same action? And that's how
preventing you from manipulating other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, like influence and persuasion is a tool, like a scalpel.
Yeah.
You can murder somebody with it. You can save somebody's life. So the ethics are never in the tool. The ethics are in the user. But those are the kind of the three things that when people start training with me online or in person, we go through those three questions and say, if ultimately, if the other person could see inside of your head, would they be terrified?
Right. Okay. So then that's how you practice not manipulating other people.
Yeah.
How do you guard against manipulation from other people or by other people?
That's very tough. I don't think I'm immune in any way. And I'm the guy writing books on this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's exactly what we were talking about earlier, getting it into the sunlight and making it a conscious process of understanding what all of these things are.
Yeah.
Helps you to the moment that this stuff starts happening, you're like, whoa, that thing that I learned about just got triggered in my head because I've studied it or I've felt it.
Yeah.
The awareness of not the tactics, not like, oh, he's using the technique number 17B or something.
Yeah.
But the awareness of what governs manipulation and influence. And it's the four things that govern the mammalian brain, not the human brain, but mammalian brain that's in our heads too, is focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. Can I learn to spot how someone's capturing and leading my focus, pretending to be or signaling that they have authority, pretending that all this tribe agrees with some kind of decision, or triggering emotional stuff in me? I mean, if you look at focus, authority, tribe, and emotion, you can manipulate humans that way.
Fate.
It spells fate.
Yeah.
Because it becomes our fate.
Yeah.
Or you can train a dog. If you watch Cesar Millan, Dog Whisperer, it's focus in that order: authority, then tribe, then emotion, then the reward at the end. Right?
The way is in training. It was one of my favorite quotes by Musashi, and it has so many different meanings. But there's an entrainment process here too. So if you're aware of the FATE acronym, then you'll at least have conscious awareness if someone. I mean, it's still probably hard to detect, but you're more likely to detect it. Yeah. If you have that conscious awareness.
Yeah. But if someone's triggering those things and you're not very well versed, if you do a survey of and go ask everybody on the street, like, are you easily manipulated? 100% of people are going to say no.
Yeah, of course.
I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to know when it's coming.
Yeah.
And then you go see the psychological research, like the Milgram experiment, where people thought that they were shocking someone to death. 67% of people went all the way to the end.
Yeah. And that was just the authority, right?
Mostly. Yeah. And focus.
Yeah.
Because novelty triggers focus. And they were all in a building they'd never been in. People they'd never seen, doing stuff they'd never done. But if those people got education and like, here's your focus, here's how authority is tripwired. Yeah. The tribe, the emotion, the mammalian brain was hacked. Yeah. So 250 volts is enough to kill you. 100% went up to that level.
Wow.
100%.
Crazy.
And imagine if you surveyed all of those people They 100% of them would say, no, I would never do anything like that. It's stupid. You have to be a psychopath.
Right.
So those are the 4 things that influence the mammal. And there's 6 things outside of that little ring. Maybe I'll send you a graphic that you can put in the notes.
Yeah, please. We'll put it on the screen.
And that is focus. And there's 2 types of focus. We have animal focus, which is like novelty, new information, stick breaking behind the bush at night kind of focus. Then we have human focus. And the human brain focuses on social gain or like social hierarchy. I have some kind of value socially to you or a social threat. That's human focus. Then we have openness, like vulnerability and stuff, connection, suggestibility, compliance, and expectancy. The cool thing is you only need, if you get 3 of those 6, you can manipulate a human being. You don't even need all 6. You just need 3. So if I just get you extremely focused, I level up your level of compliance like crazy, and I get your suggestibility up high, I can get you to do anything. I don't need to feel a connection with you. I don't need any kind of rapport.
Wow.
If you look at the Milgram experiment, where is a quick 10-second recap. They had these people that they thought they were shocking someone else at Yale University up to 450 volts, and it was crazy. But there was no connection. There was no openness.
They were separated by rooms, right?
Yeah, like a piece of drywall.
But they could hear the screaming.
They could hear the screaming.
Okay, yeah.
And around 350 volts, there was no more screaming and no more answers on the test. It was dead silence. And the experimenter, the dude in the lab coat, was like, any non-answer must be treated as an incorrect answer. Please continue. Kept on going, which is frightening.
Yeah.
But this was during the Nuremberg trials after Nazi Germany and stuff. And Dr. Stanley Milgram, his parents were Jewish. They fled the Nazis, and all these Nazis are on trial saying, I was just following orders. Just following orders.
Yeah.
So he kind of tried to recreate this environment. But that, if you look at the Milgram experiment, there was no openness. There's no connection. They just had the focus. They had compliance, and they had suggestibility.
Yeah.
That was it. And there was no expectancy, which was the final item.
Right. Where does authority play into the 6 then? The guy in the lab coat?
Yes.
That's the suggestibility, or where does...
So that authority levels up focus because there's an authority figure there.
Yeah.
And it levels up the suggestibility. And from the very beginning, here, have a seat right here. Take this pen. Put your name down right here. Come in this room.
Compliance ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's compliance escalation. Yeah.
This is what the pandemic was all about, as far as I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Just getting people habituated to following whatever the arbitrary decree is. That's a whole nother tangent. But I wanted to go back. Something you said earlier, concealment of intent, right? If you want to ensure I'm not being manipulative consciously, the first box I needed to check, I think you said, was, am I concealing any intent in this interaction?
It doesn't mean, do I have to be openly talking about it the whole time? But it's instead
You're
of
not
like
misleading them consciously, basically.
Yeah. So it's like, here's a flyer. We're doing a seminar tonight. And if you stick around for the whole thing, we're going to teach you about these timeshares, and I'm going to give you a free toaster oven. And nobody tells you you're getting a sales pitch, right?
Right.
That's the kind of stuff where there's manipulation.
Okay. So was that concealing intent? Because it sounded like she was saying everything that she's going to do.
No, she said, we're going to teach you about this stuff.
Oh, okay. But the intent's to sell you the condo.
I don't know what the sales pitch is.
Yeah.
I know that that's really very concealed.
You got it.
Guy knocks on your door and says, I'd like to demonstrate how good this Kirby vacuum cleaner is. Very open.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And very successful. Still very successful.
Yes. Okay. So the question I wanted to ask about that is, that sounds perfectly correct. But then I think of what Sun Tzu said, something like, all warfare is based on deception.
Yep.
And so this is a problem I've struggled with philosophically. It's like every other human is a potential threat or enemy at all times, because people can do whatever in a moment, right?
Yeah.
So how do we, and maybe this goes all the way to Christ, because I was going to say the philosophical question is like, how do you decide, Are you dealing with a friend or foe? But then the Christic answer is love thy enemy, which I think is probably one of the most difficult commands or suggestions he gave us.
He never said get shot by the enemy.
Correct.
Right. So I think the military has a very clear pathway to determine is this a friend or a foe? Mm-hmm. It's does that person have the capability to kill me? Mm-hmm. Check. Okay. Do they have the opportunity to kill me? So like if I had a gun on my hip right now, do I have capability and opportunity? Yeah. Third thing on the triangle is intent.
I know that's the hardest one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I say I'm going to kill you and then I stand up and start drawing my weapon, that's intent.
Sure.
I've demonstrated intent.
Yeah.
You were talking about like concealing our intent.
Yeah.
The difference between war and life and blurring the lines. I've been on 9 deployments, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Sure. Yeah.
And I firmly believe it is like, I will give you the phone number of every one of my clients. I firmly live the value of we rise by lifting other people.
Yeah.
But there are moments where me taking down one person is going to help other people rise up.
That's got to be the most difficult. Still, the difficulty remains, all right? Is this the most difficult thing in human experience, is making that particular decision? Because you're still dealing with the intent, which can be concealed. And then you're still dealing with kind of the utilitarian-esque calculus of like, is taking this one person down going to lift other people up? That's not typically not an objective math problem, right? That's a lot of subjectivity.
Yep.
The trolley problem comes to mind. Like,
yeah.
Can you say some more? Like, how do we deal with that? It's like, it seems to me like it's irreducibly complex.
It is. But I think what we were speaking about at the beginning was a psychological problem, and we've drifted into philosophical problem.
Okay.
Which I think I'm in. Can't tread that water.
Got it. Okay.
I don't consider myself an expert at all.
Okay. Yeah, that one's tough.
It is.
Where's the line? Where's the line between psychological and philosophical, if we're psychological creatures?
I think when we start asking, like, how do I define something in a millisecond, it becomes philosophical.
Got it.
How do I define the undefinable aspects of life?
Right.
Is when we get into philosophical. And maybe that line is drawn by the sound of one hand clapping.
Yeah. Very paradoxical, cone-like. Got it. Okay. I'll carry that philosophical problem on with me into my
I wish I could have unloaded it for you.
Long-thinking future. Okay. Going back to something you talked about earlier, when we're talking about behavioral science, people are very complex critters. However, we need to decomplexify and sort of categorize people to deal with them. Is this where typology frameworks come into play, like the Myers-Briggs framework, the Big Five personality test, even astrology? I know astrology is sort of poo-pooed on today in the modern age, but like Carl Jung said something about astrology was like the culmination of all of our knowledge of psychology up until a certain point. You know, so like it's not, I don't know if it's whatever. I don't know your opinion on astrology, but these types of frameworks.
I think all models are wrong.
Okay.
Some models are helpful.
Yes. Fair enough. How do we then, do you just kind of use all of the models and synthesize them and get the approximation?
We have, when it comes to dealing with an individual person, we have our own system that's very efficient. Like you can run it on me in less than 6 minutes with just us talking about work or vacation or whatever. And people will reveal all of those pieces.
Okay.
And this is a profiling system I developed for the government called 6 Minute X-Ray. It's even an Amazon book called 6 Minute X-Ray. And it's just listening to the language to figure out, what does this person need from other human beings? How do they need to feel? Do they need to feel significant? Do they need approval? Do they need to feel like they're accepted into a group of people? Those are typically your big 3. The power might be another one, but there's 6 total that we teach. And then how do they make decisions based on their clothing, their behavior, their past, the patterns that I can see. How do they typically make decisions? There's 6 decision types that you can profile in a person within 6 minutes. And then finally is the values. Like at the end of their life, what are they really seeking as a result of making choices? Is it like growth or connections or freedom or sometimes information or recognition? So like the end goal of those people, and that will define your values. And when people say, oh, the sales script is 30% effective, that means that the sales script is written for 30% of those types of people.
Okay.
So if you just change the words around to understand how the person needs to feel, how they make decisions, and their ultimate goal, then everything completely changes.
Okay. So this is like curating the message for the audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
And developing empathy at the same time, especially if we're at the point of seeing people as reasons.
Yes.
It's like this person keeps doing some annoying thing at work that pisses me off.
Right.
I'm seeing the reason first. I don't have to go say, hey, come in here in my office. Let's talk about 3rd grade. Tell me about your teacher. I don't have to do any of that. But I can tell like there's a situation that happened here that made this behavior. So I know the root of what's happening. And it makes me 1,000% more effective as a leader.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.